Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Are we still taking up the time? That's good. All right. Sorry, that didn't play as long. Good morning. I'm going to let them finish up, and then I'm going to start talking to you. So everybody ready for this Packer game later? Yeah, I feel like I'm ringing just a little bit. Good. Confirmation. Finally, after 3 weeks, someone agrees with me. No, it's like I finally got a response from somebody. Today we're going to talk about insecurities. I know I'm the only one that has to deal with insecurity. But you're just going to have to sit here and listen to it anyway. But before we do that, I'm going to get you to stand up and do the thing. And come on, let's do. Everybody stand up. Come on, stand up. Give yourself a hand. Come on. Let's go. High five somebody. High five somebody different than from last week. High five somebody different than from last week. Come on, let's hear something. All right, we already got you. Yeah. All right, come on. Let's liven it up a little bit, right? Right? Okay, now, you can go ahead and sit down, but I want you to turn to someone next to you and tell them, you better listen because this is for you today. Okay, now turn to the other person and tell them, you better listen up because this is for you today. And now quietly mumble to yourself, this is actually for me today. This is actually for me. Do you ever get into, you don't have to raise your hand, but do you ever be listening to something and you're thinking, man, I wish they could hear this. I wish so-and-so was here to hear this today. They need to hear this. Do you ever do that? Every week, I know. And then but do you ever consider I wonder if I should be listening too? Huh. You ever you ever think about that? Cause I used to do this. I used to man, this is so good. I wish he could be here, she could be here, and hear this. This is so good. And then I got to thinking do I actually ever listen to God? Does God not talk to me? Is he just talking? Is he just doing these sermons for everybody else? I don't know where that came from. That just kind of came up all of a sudden. I don't know why, but it came up. So anyway, today we're going to talk about insecurities. And it's funny how this whole message got started because I knew what God had put on my heart to talk about. Last week we talked about the voices that we listen to. And I think that our insecurities are tied really close to the same thing. The voice... Hang on, let me read this so I get it right. The voice you believe will determine the future you experience. Do you remember talking about that last week? All right. It's okay, you're feeling my insecurity just a little bit. We talked about the voice you believe determines the future you experience. We talked about hearing the voices in our head that tell us the things that are opposite of what God's telling us. And the Chatterbox, yeah. I started reading this book called The Chatterbox. It's by Stephen Furtick. If you've never read it, do it. It's great. Anyway, so that book has kind of changed the way I've been thinking and the way I've been reading and the way I've been doing a lot of things. And so, this whole message came up, and all week, and another thing, I need to apologize. I don't know how I did this, but last week, I used a great punchline that I should have saved and used this week. But anyway, we'll get to that. As I was reading and going through everything, I thought, man, there was one thing that stuck out that I said last week, and I was like, why did I say that last week? Why didn't I save it for this week? It'd have been great to use this week. But you know what? God had that for somebody regardless of what I wanted to do. God had that for somebody. So it's good. It's funny how God works. See, when this message came up, I know I keep repeating myself, when this message came up, I knew what God was saying, but I fought with it. I struggled. I was unorganized all week. I kept going back and forth between these two passages, and I was like, I don't know which one I want to use. I really like this one, but I really like this one, and this is cool, and I could talk about this one a little bit more, but I could talk about this one. I like this one. It's a little bit deeper. And then, like, I go back and forth, and I keep, like, wrestling with it. Like, and then I start thinking, well, no one listens to you anyway. So it doesn't matter which one you use. No one's paying attention. No one's listening. No one, you know, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter. I mean, they're not going to get it anyway. They're going to miss it. They're not going to get it. And I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying, I start thinking about myself like, I'm not good at doing this, so no one's going to understand what you're saying anyway. How many of you have the I'm not blank enough to do this? Soundtrack, like a soundtrack playing over and over your head. Anybody else? I'm never what enough. I'm never good enough. I'm never organized enough. I'm never smart enough. I can't get this degree. I barely made it through high school. How am I supposed to make it through college? You know what I'm talking about? Does anybody else? Okay. Oh, yes, there we go. Give yourself a hand. There we go. It's okay to participate. It's okay to say, yeah. Like, that's good. I like that because that tells me that it's going somewhere. So it's like confirmation, you know, like, think about this. Okay, and this is for married people, I guess. Like, if you're, okay, guys, don't ever do this. If your wife comes to you and says, does this look all right? Immediately, yes. Immediately. If you stop and look, you've already lost. You might as well just, you're done, okay? Whatever she wants, just buy it or do it, whatever. It doesn't matter. You've already lost. So, like, it's okay to respond. It's okay to respond. It gives us that confirmation or affirmation or however you say it. I don't know. See, that's another thing. I'm not smart enough. I don't know all the big words. I don't know all the religious words. I don't know the religious way to say everything and put everything. But it doesn't matter. You know why? Because God's going to speak regardless of what I want to say or what I want to do. We're going to read. Did anybody bring their Bibles today? Sweet. I'm going to read in Jeremiah. I'm going to read this real quick, and we're going to read it together because it's important. It's important that we speak it to ourselves and come into an agreement with it. That's what we were talking about last week, and we're going to continue this week. We want to agree with God about what God says about us and who we are. All right, so we're going to be in Jeremiah 1, and I'm going to start in verse 4. This is about the call of Jeremiah. This is God calling Jeremiah to his ministry, to his when Jeremiah becomes the prophet or whatever. He's like a teenager, I think, and anyway, this is it. We're going to read it aloud. It doesn't matter what version of Bible you've got. If you're following along with the screen, it doesn't matter. However you do it, let's just read it aloud. Okay, we're going to be Jeremiah 1:4. Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, then I said, O Lord, behold, I do not know how to speak, for I am only a youth. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am only a youth. To all whom I send you, you shall go, and whoever I command you, you shall speak. Do not be afraid, for I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. Good job. Good job. Good job. Give yourself a hand. Even the ones that didn't read. It's important that we read God's word and come into an agreement with it. Like, I don't know why this verse, but this verse stuck out to me. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before we knew who we were, God knew who we were. Do you get that? Does that make sense? Before we knew who we were, God knew who we were first. Huh. All right. Now I'm going to read something in Moses. In the book of Moses. See, I'm still not used to this. I'm still not good at this. See? You see how fast, this is how the insecurities creep in. Do you ever start to do something and be like, man, why am I even trying? Why am I doing this? How many of you ever started a diet? I've started so many diets. I've started working out so many times. And this is what happens. Why do you even set your alarm? You know you're not going to get up and run. Why do you even set your alarm? You know what I'm talking about? That chatterbox, that enemy is after us. That's how fast our mind gets turned around. All right, we're going to read in Exodus, and we're going to be in chapter 3. And I'm not going to make you read everything out loud, so it's okay. Calm down. But I'm going to tell you a little bit what's going on. This is when God starts talking to Moses through the burning bush. And bear with me for a minute. It may take you a little bit to get this going, but I want to show you something that's like, to me, this was like dynamite going off. It was just like, it was big. So, all right, so God is calling Moses, okay? God's calling Moses. I guess I'll read it to you. Now, Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness, and he came to Horeb. That's another thing. I suck at reading out loud. I don't know why. I'm sorry. I hate to use that word, but I'm terrible at reading out loud. And that's another thing. When I started talking about, when Todd started talking to me about being a pastor, I was like, that means I got to talk in front of people and read. But I had this feeling in my heart, like God was taking me somewhere, like things had started changing in my life, and my desires and the way I was reading to myself and studying and stuff was changing, and I felt like God was calling me to something. I knew He was, but I never imagined it to be under the circumstances it happened. But then when it came about, what happened is even though I knew God was calling me, I let that voice speak to me and start telling me, well, you're not. And this is something else. You notice how the enemy doesn't ever say you, says I. He makes you say it to yourself. I don't read good out loud. I don't read good as it is. I don't read good out loud. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I should probably just tell him I can't do it. Find somebody else. Maybe someone else is better suited for this. And anybody who knows me knows that I don't talk much anyway. I don't talk, and I don't know why I'm standing up here talking to you guys. Because I'm just not a talker. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't just go around talking to people. Anyway, so I found some similarities here between me and Moses. And I'm not saying I'm here to lead you out and we're going to part those. I'm not, let's not get carried away here, okay? But I'm going to show you something. I'm not going to read this. I changed my mind. God's telling me something else, so I'm going to have to change it. See, God starts speaking to Moses, and He tells Moses, I'm going to use you to lead my people. I'm going to skip down to verse 10. It says, come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I that you would pick me to do this? Who am I? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? Who am I? Who am I to do this? See, he didn't doubt God. He doubted himself. Doubted himself. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Okay, watch this. And Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Okay, who am I to lead these people? Who am I supposed to say you are? And God says, I am. I am. Say it with me. I am. So, I'm going to give you a summary here. So, Moses is doubting God, okay? Do you follow me? Moses is not doubting God. Moses is doubting himself. And so he starts asking these questions. Well, how will they know? And so God starts giving him these signs. He says, throw your staff on the ground and it'll turn into a snake, and then you pick it up and it'll turn back into a staff. And then he says, well, if that don't work, put your hand in your shirt, and when you pull it out, it'll be a leper's hand. And then when you stick it back in and pull it back out again, it'll be healed. And then if that don't work, if nothing else works, take some water out of the Nile, throw it on the ground, and it'll turn to blood. And then they'll know who sent you. Okay, so now we're in 4. We're going to skip down to verse 10 again. But Moses said to the Lord, oh my Lord, I am not eloquent enough. I am not eloquent either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. You see, he's still telling God no. God's telling him to do something. He's just showed him all these crazy signs. He's speaking to him through this burning bush, which would blow my mind to begin with. And he's still saying, but God, I'm not enough. I'm deficient. I'm jacked up. Remember, I killed somebody. For those who don't know, Moses killed somebody. I'm too messed up. God, you can't use me. I'm too messed up. I don't talk right. I stutter. I don't know how to read. I'm too messed up. God, you can't use me. God says, I am. I am. I am. Keep saying that to yourself. I am. This is going to make sense to you in a minute. I'm going to connect some stuff, and it's going to make some sense. Hopefully. If not, then oh well. Yesterday when I was studying, I was reading, God downloaded this to me, and I tried to remember it to tell some of my friends last night, and I couldn't remember it, and I couldn't get it right, but I brought it today, and I want to share it with you. And write this down. Write this down. Insecurity makes you a slave to how you think others judge you. Insecurity makes you a slave to how you think others are judging you. When God spoke that to me, I almost told him to be quiet. I don't know why, but Facebook is like an epidemic of insecurity, and we don't even realize it. You know why? Because you start comparing yourself, your behind-the-scenes self, to everyone else's highlight reel. Do you realize that? Now, not everybody, somebody will dump all their negativity right on Facebook. And then you got to read that. But then everybody else is posting this. Like, how many times do you ever go, okay, this is embarrassing. I've only taken a handful of selfies, and I don't know why I did it, but there are some selfie professionals in here. I mean selfie professionals. How many times when I take a selfie, I just take it. I don't care what's behind me. I don't care what's going on. But I don't ever. I can't do that. That's just bad. I'm not doing it anyway. It looks terrible every time. I can't get it right. But how many times do you go to take a picture of something and you go, oh, well, I got to fix this. Oh, wait. Well, here, stand over here. Stand over. Oh, wait. Let's do this. Oh, hold it up higher. You see what I mean? You see, like, why? Because you know why? Because you want to make sure your selfie looks better than their selfie. And then what happens is we start comparing ourselves. We compare ourselves to everybody else's highlight reel. See what you don't see. You don't see them yelling at their kids on Facebook. You don't see them being telling their kids they're not good enough. You don't see them arguing, the husband and wife arguing on Facebook. You don't get to see the behind the scenes of everybody else. See, we think we have access to everybody else's lives, but we don't. We have a little snap, a little snippet, just a little bitty bit that they want to allow everyone to see. And some of it is extremely negative. We shouldn't be reading it or looking at it anyway. And then the rest of it, well, all it's doing is feeding our insecurity. And you become that slave to seeking approval of everyone else. Anybody ever seen The Voice? I like that show. And what I like the most about it, I like that these people are up there singing their hearts out. And the judges aren't looking at them. Because see, sometimes the looks makes a difference on how people judge. But they got it's sight unseen. They're going strictly off of this voice. It doesn't matter what they look like, what they're dressed like, nothing. Their posture, none of that matters. Their voice, what they're singing out. But see, we're singing out and we're just begging for someone to turn around. And the whole time, God's already I already picked you anyway. Before you were born, I picked you. I called you before you were even born. Before you knew who you were, I picked you. Remember all that stuff that we said, I'm not enough, I'm not. But God, I can't, I don't read good, I don't speak good. I know I am. I can. That's what God says. I tell God, but I'm not good enough. I am. Do you get it? Do you see? See, everything we say we're not, God says, I know. But I love you anyway, and I called you anyway. And I'm going to use you anyway. It doesn't matter how jacked up you think you are, I still love you, and I'm going to use you anyway. I'm still calling you. Do you see that? And I'm going to show you one more thing. This is big. This is huge, okay? And this came to light this week in this book. This week, before I knew I was going to talk about insecurity, but I didn't know this part was going to be in this message. And this was huge, huge, huge to me. Huge, okay? Get it? Huge, big, okay? Way big, okay? All right, I'm going to show you this. Okay, so Moses told God, I'm not good enough. I don't speak well. I stutter. I killed somebody. Remember, you got to remember my past, God. Remember my past. Remember all the stuff I messed up and jacked up and screwed up and all the people I screwed over and all that. Oh, by the way, we're not very churchy here, so if I use words that offend you, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just a guy just like everybody else. I'm talking to you like we're talking out there, okay? It doesn't matter if we're in here or out there. I'm talking to you the same. So yeah, so Moses is telling God, I'm not good enough. But then God says, well, I am. And so he uses Moses. He leads his people out of Egypt. Moses does all this stuff, leads him onto the mountain, gives him the 10 Commandments. And then there's this one commandment that nobody has ever understood until now. Consider yourself lucky. If I can find it. There's something else I learned last week. These lights and my highlighter and this small print, not a good combination. Not a good combination. But see, I got to highlight it or I'll never find it anyway. All right. So we're now Exodus 20. We're in the Ten Commandments. It says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." Okay. So don't say, right? That's what we've always been taught. Don't use God's name in vain. Don't say stuff like, "Oh my God." Right? And I'm on board with that. I get that. I feel like we've got to honor the way we use God's name. But I'm going to show you something. I'm going to use Amber and Scott real quick. If you just stand up real quick. And you can sit down. I'm going to show you something. This is what happens when we become a Christian. How long have you guys been married? Ooh. 16 years. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Amber, what was your maiden name? Petty. Okay, Petty. And then now your name is Hernandez. All right, you can sit down. I'm about to show you something, and this, to me, changed everything. See, they didn't just get married. She didn't just change her name on her driver's license. She took his name. She took Hernandez. She took his name. And now what is his is hers, and what's hers is his. And what she's not, he is, and what he's not, she is. There's no prenup. Oh, this is so big. Do you see this? She didn't just change her name. What they do together. Who they are together. Where they live together. They dwell together. On the greatest day of her life, she took on everything that he was, and he took on everything that she was, and it became one. On the greatest day of your life, when you accepted God into your life, you became everything that you weren't, and you didn't even realize it. Do you see that? See, when we invite God in and we invite God to change our lives, even there's some things that we fight Him about and we don't want to change, He still took us in. He knew us before He created us, and He called us regardless. And when we take on His name, guess what? It doesn't matter what you say or what you think. I'm not. I am, because God is I am. God is the I am in your I'm not. You see that? That's huge. That is huge. I'll fight with it every day, but it's huge. Because no matter how much I prepare, no matter how much I read or study or write down my notes or write down what I think I'm going to say, when Sunday gets here, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I can't organize my thoughts enough for 5 seconds to even know what I'm supposed to say to you guys. And God says, I know. It's not you anyway. It's me. I am. That's good. That's exciting. I am. I'm going to pray over us real quick. And we're not done. I'm going to pray over you real quick. I don't know, but I feel like something. What is it that you're not? I'm not organized. I want to be, and I try to be. I'm not organized. I don't commit enough. I feel like I don't commit enough. Like I say I'm going to do things sometimes, and I don't commit. That's what I'm guilty of. That's just the churchy things. That's just the things I'm going to tell you in here. But every one of you know exactly what I'm talking about, because we've all got something that we know we ain't going to say. We've all got something that if there's no way we're going to put it up on the screen and let everybody else know. See, you try to give up something. I got to quit drinking. I got to quit smoking. I got to quit this. I got to quit that. And we focus on that. But there's more. There's more to our life and to our hearts than addiction. I don't love. Sometimes we look at how we love our kids and how we don't love our kids. The way we parent. The way we raise our kids up. I remember my oldest daughter, I remember when she was born and I held her for the first time. And that was just the most amazing moment of my life. And any of you that have had kids for the first time, you know, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to let you go. But God held us and said the same thing before we were even born. God knew us before He put us here. God made you the way He made you on purpose. And I said this last week and I'll say it again. If He wanted you to grow up in the rich neighborhood, you would have grown up in the rich neighborhood. If He wanted you to have a special talent, you would have had that special talent. If He wanted you to grow up in the poor neighborhood, you would have grown up in the poor neighborhood. It doesn't matter. Do you see? It doesn't matter. If He needed you to have something, you've got it. And what you don't have, He is. And there's something else I want to say real quick. Do you ever notice? See, God uses our inability more than He uses our ability. You know why? Because God's glory shows through the impossible more than it shows through the possible. The things that operate every day by the regular possible things, that's good. God's in it. But when God can show you the impossible, show you the possible through your impossible, that's when you experience God on a different level, on a higher level. So quit saying I'm not and say I am, because God is I am. Do you get that? So I'm going to pray over you. And I want you to pray out loud. Don't worry about the person next to you. If you don't want to get too close to them, just scoot over or just tell them quit listening to me and pay attention to your own business. No, it doesn't matter. But what is that I'm not? And let's turn it into the I am.